Thank you for coming to my channel. Today we are reacting to one of, I would say, Nick Fuentes' best responses yet. As we know, the right-wing influencers, a lot of them I used to trust, who now I'm questioning, have been going in on Nick the past 48 hours, including Elon Musk. It's very weird timing how all of them just cahoot together and put out a hit piece all at once. It's definitely coordinated. They don't realize how obvious it's coming across. And Nick's going to respond to it in his own words, exposing the whole right-wing system. You come for the king, he will match you with that same energy. That's just how I think. I mean, right now he is on top. Everyone's talking about him, left or right. Enough talking. Let's get it started, y'all.
I am actually going to dive into some of the information tonight. We're going to unpack all the allegations. We'll talk about the whole thing. We'll talk about it in its totality in a holistic way, so nobody can accuse me of pivoting or deflecting with rhetoric. I mean, everything I said at the top of the show is true. But we are actually going to address the allegations. We're going to break it down piece by piece. We're going to go over some of the evidence. And I will not tell the whole thing from start to finish because it's a super long story. We'll go over the most important stuff in detail. I'll bring the receipts as I promised I did. But then we'll get through to what is really motivating this, because obviously this is like, everybody can see what is happening. It is just undeniable. I was the most suppressed person for 10 years. Everyone knows that. People were afraid to say my name. They were afraid to be in pictures with me. I was the boogeyman in conservative politics for literally a decade.
It's true. I mean, when I heard them speak about him and Ye and their connections and how he's a white supremacist, I didn't even give Nick the chance a day until I started seeing him trend on Twitter. And then I started listening to him and I'm like, man, this guy makes some real good sense.
Much is not disputed. I am literally banned on everything. I am banned on Airbnb. I am banned on Email Octopus. I am banned from Chase Bank, Bank of America, US Bank, Fifth Third Bank, Inland Bank, PayPal, Stripe, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Elon won't let me have a check mark on Twitter, even though I'm on there. It's endless. Ashley St. Clair, she got fired from her job as a Turning Point ambassador because she was in a photograph with me. I went at a meeting at the inside Austin, Texas, at the Pale Horse offices. They photographed me leaving the building. Somebody lost their job over that. The Texas state legislature passed a bill condemning me and anti-Semitism because I was photographed leaving an office building. There was a guy who was nominated for a Senate confirmation position in the White House a couple weeks ago. He lost the nomination because he watched one of my speeches. This happened last week. And I don't want to, draw any heat on this guy. But there was literally a Senate confirmation level position in the White House. The guy was nominated for some position, I think, lead counsel for DHS. He lost the job. Excuse me. Because last year he was outside a speech that I was giving at AFPAC 4. And so the story of the summer is that being the boogeyman for 10 years, obviously there's a reason. The ADL, the SPLC, Media Matters, Right Wing Watch, they created this dossier on me over the years, accusing me of being the furthest right person in politics. The arch racist, the arch Nazi, the arch anti-Semite, white nationalist. They said I'm influencing the kids, I'm subverting the movement, I'm spreading my tentacles in electoral politics. Excuse me. They said all this about me. And now, this summer, all of a sudden, I'm blowing up everywhere. Undeniably. Everybody's talking about me.
It's true.
I'm going on all these shows. Mainstream shows with Nelk, with Bradley Martin. I'm getting defended by mainstream people. And now the answer to all of this is, how do we put the genie back in the bottle? Did you think this was all going to happen bloodlessly? Did you think all this was going to happen peacefully? That Nick Fuentes goes from being the most canceled to being mainstream, and that's it? You think these forces that got me destroyed over the past 10 years are going to say, oh, well, yeah, he broke containment. Well, this is going to suck for us. And we're talking powerful people. We're talking about Arthur Schwartz, a fixer for Don Jr., who got me kicked out of YouTube in 2020. We're talking about Charlie Kirk, the bag man for Trump. We're talking about the ADL, the SPLC. Powerful people got me at the time I was a kid. I was 18. Powerful people got me destroyed the first time. Now that I'm becoming popular, do you think those same powerful people are going to say, oh, well, guess he's popular now? No. So the question was always going to be, and this was in the back of my mind, when's the next shoe going to drop? Okay, things are getting good. My show's huge, making tons of money, making inroads. What are they going to do next?
They're going to look into your past. They're going to try to make up some situation where a woman comes out and said you raped him like they did Tate. Then they're going to try to lock you up. Then once you prove you're innocent, then the next step is they off you. That's how it always goes. That's how the Matrix gets you. They arrest you. They try to make some bullshit up about your past. Find some woman who's going to say, oh, he touched me inappropriately. And then they're going to take him out. So he needs protection. I hope. Yeah, he is not suicidal at all. I hope you're having a great night, Hope. Very excited to react to this. It is a couple hours, but I think it's well worth the watch.
Now it's a smear campaign. And so I want to start in the beginning of the story to how we got to today. We'll address the allegations, and then we'll talk about what's really motivating the allegations. That's the structure of the show. So how did we get here? Well, back in June, when the United States and Israel went to war with Iran, I had the biggest show in all of streaming, literally. In the middle of June, Israel bombs Iran. Israel goes to war with Iran. Now, I had predicted this in 2024. Notably, I was one of the only people on our side that did not vote for Trump and then encouraged others.
And about Trump, I'm actually getting fed up with this administration. That's a good thing about us. We call our side out. Whole Epstein debacle, that has been handled horribly, and there's been no firings. Actually, Trump has insulted the base, and other influencers are saying this isn't even a top 10 issue. No, trafficking kids and getting away with it. These leaders are still in power, a lot of them. That's what they seem to not get. It is the Mossad Israel who also was involved with this. Jeffrey Epstein worked with Mossad, just like Ghislaine Maxwell and her father. It's really that simple. They are protecting people at this point. And if you protect pedophiles, I just have no patience for you. And I'm coming to my wit ends with that. Now, in regards to the border, inflation, yes, it's good and all, but they're not arresting any people. They have not arrested any high-name officials. So my trust for this administration is going way down by the day. I think they are pussies, and they need to start arresting people and doing what they said they were going to do.
Other people not to vote for Trump. And I did it for specific reasons. And a few of them were as follows. I said, don't vote for Trump. He's going to bring us to war in Iran. He is not going to follow through on mass deportations. I said,
Jonathan, that is a great start. If Trump could do that, I will give him kudos and I will gain a lot of respect back, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Importantly, or maybe as importantly, with the nomination of J.D. Vance and the penetration of the Trump movement by Silicon Valley, I said MAGA is no longer what it was in 2016. Now, this is important stuff because I said in 2024, last year, I said the value proposition of Trump in 24 is fundamentally different. In 2016, Trump said, no lobbyists, no super PACs, no donors. I'm your voice. It was Trump against the whole world. Trump against the corruption, against the special interests, the lobbyists, the donors. It was like a Caesar-like moment, a Mussolini moment.
I agree.
The premise of Trump 16 is that he was going to reach into the country, as he said at his announcement speech, he was going to literally take the country and make it great. That's what he said. I alone. America needs a leader. I will literally take this country and make it great again. And understand the subtext. The subtext was anti-corruption. MAGA was a populist anti-corruption campaign. He was the people's champion. He said, I am the people's voice. He said, Americans don't come first because the lobbyists, special interests, the donors, foreign countries, multinational corporations, international banks are being put first. He said, but I'm not controlled by them. I will take the country. I will make it great. Such a powerful idea. It didn't happen. He sold out immediately. Maybe the whole thing was fake. But who did he put in charge of his cabinet? Rex Tillerson, Steve Mnuchin. Terrible people, swamp creatures. The administration was filled up with Bush alum, Rubio alum. Reince Priebus was the chief of staff. It was terrible. So the anti-corruption never happened.
And now we have Susan Wiles, who I believe is Israel's right-hand woman, as you call it. Disgusting.
We achieved some modest reforms. It wasn't all bad. But the premise of 16 was that Trump would be a true tyrant. That, like Caesar, he would intervene personally to save the republic from himself. I was on board with that, but it did not happen. He empowered many of the oligarchs, different oligarchs, new oligarchs, some old oligarchs, but he empowered them and achieved modest reforms indistinguishable from what any other Republican would have done. He cut the corporate tax rate, moved Israel's embassy. It did some minor stuff on the border. It was negligible. Appointed Federalist Society judges to the Supreme Court. Wasn't a revolution. Okay. 2024, who enters the fray? Well, now all of a sudden you have Elon Musk giving Trump billions, nearly $1 billion. Elon gives Trump nearly $300 million. Tim Mellon, a banker, gives Trump $200 million. Miriam Adelson, an Israeli spy, gives Trump $100 million. Okay? And who is their guy? Elon's guy, Silicon Valley's guy, Wall Street's guy is J.D. Vance. Now, more on that later. But that was a big reason. I said
I actually like J.D. Vance. I didn't know who he was until Trump actually named him his running mate, and I started hearing what he was saying. But the more that Fuentes exposes him, I'm like, what were you thinking? It's like they don't vet any of these people in this administration.
Because Vance was the congenital, archetypal, never Trumper.
So
he was selling this book. They made a Netflix documentary about him. He's at the Aspen Institute. Google what that is. He's being promoted by Peter Thiel and David Frum. He comes from Yale Law School. And this guy was put as the vice president. Very problematic. Now, that's a little preview for a little prefiguring of what we'll talk about later. But for these reasons, I did not vote for Trump vocally. I said Trump is going to bring us to war with Iran. He is not going to deport anybody. And maybe most importantly, Vance is bad news. Vance is the VP. That's a betrayal of everything. Extremely important. Now, because of this prediction, because I isolated myself, I was the only one. Who else did not vote for Trump? Who else was actually against Trump? I mean, in the end, many people wound up voting for him. And that is why.
Yeah, they groom them. The minute they go into college, these people like Peter Thiel, which I heard this today, they'll get these like very well-spoken people and just pick them out and kind of groom him and put him into politics. And that's exactly what Peter Thiel did to J.D. Vance.
In June of this year, when the bombs started falling in Iran, Israel's war, I started to attract tons of success. When Israel bombed Iran, I had 50,000 live viewers on my stream because I predicted it. That's why. I predicted it because I was right about Israel in the first place, going all the way back. I was right about Vance and Trump. I was right about so many things. Everybody wanted to see my take. And people watched my coverage of the Iran war for 2 weeks. And the opinion towards me started changing. They said, this guy's very informed. I don't even agree with all his other politics, but he's giving the best analysis. He's super bright. Fast forward a week later, the United States enters the conflict on a Saturday night. The U.S. bombs Iran. That night, on an impromptu stream, I had 70,000 live viewers. It was the biggest live stream that night. Period. That was the biggest news live stream covering the attack on Iran that was happening at that time anywhere on the internet. It was the following morning that Candace Owens texted me. The following morning, okay? Now, up until this point, over the last half of the year, my clips are blowing up on Instagram. They're getting millions of views. My clips are blowing up on TikTok. They're getting millions of views. It's a phenomenon. My show is blowing up. I have the biggest live stream in the country, and people are saying, this is the best thing we've seen. The day after my biggest live stream to date, Candace Owens texts me and says, you got to come out and do a show immediately. I go on her show a few days later on a Wednesday. So America hit Iran on Saturday. She hits me up on Sunday. I fly out Wednesday. I'm there for her show. Now, do we talk about the war with Iran? No, not at all. We're in the middle of a war with Iran. We both got canceled for talking about Israel's wars. We don't talk about it even at all. We don't talk about us getting canceled. There's no leveling about that. Don't talk about the guy trying to kill me at my house in December. We don't talk about me getting my Twitter account back last year. We don't talk about Trump at all. Zero. She presses me about why I hate Jews. She says, you hate Dave Smith for being Jewish. She says, you're a racist because you don't support interracial marriage. It's a hit piece. I asked her before I came out there, I said, is it going to be friendly? Is it going to be hostile? Are we going to talk about Iran? She goes, I don't do setups. Then she's got all these pre-planned clips where she says, you hate Jews. Here's the clip. You hate Dave Smith for being Jewish. You hate interracial marriages because you're a racist. Okay. Now the thing backfires spectacularly, and it's weird. It's weird. Because you would think that Candace Owens got canceled by Daily Wire, so did I. You'd think we're both outspoken about what's happening in Gaza and Iran. You'd think we talk about that, but we don't. She brings me out, it seems like for no reason other than to try to attack me from a new angle. And the angle seems to be, look, I'm talking about Zionism. You're an anti-Semite that hates Jews for being Jewish. Very bizarre. And she puts it behind a paywall. And she goes after anybody that posts the interview, copyright striking. And it seems like what she wanted to do.
Real quick, that happened to me. I had a copyright strike. That was my biggest video yet. Even before I did that video, I was getting a record number, record subscribers, record everything. The minute I got my first strike from Candace on that video, him and Fuentes, everything took a shit. Now I'm lucky to get 10 people on the live. I was getting hundreds every video. So it's crazy to see how one thing like that from Candace Owens can actually change the whole entire course of your channel.
Was to not give me the exposure. She wanted to fly me out, do a hit job, and then hide it behind a paywall so that I wouldn't get the exposure from being on her platform and gain an audience. And she has me out to kind of press me and make me look like some bitter anti-Semite. That seemed to be the program. And that was the consensus. You can look at any comment section on any re-upload of the video. That's the consensus. She's going to anyone who will listen and complain. She's saying, I'm lying about this. Every comment section where this has been re-uploaded says it was combative, it was hostile. She wasted the 2 hours talking about drama, all the rest of it. Whatever. It is what it is. Whatever you think about that, whatever. But the timing's conspicuous. A couple weeks later, she goes on a show with Tucker Carlson. And Tucker, who has never said my name before, ever, he covered me being put on the no-fly list, but didn't say my name. He covered the Groyper War, but didn't say my name. You can find the clips. They're out there. Tucker was involved in a hit piece against me in 2023, but never said my name and was never publicly involved in it. And yet, for the first time ever, he brought up my name. He brought it up in his interview with Candace after her little hit job backfired. And for the first time, he says my name, and he says that I'm a CIA agent. He says that I knew about Tucker's dad being in the CIA before he did. A demonstrable lie. You know how the story goes already. He says, I didn't know my dad was in the CIA until this year. But there's a clip from a year ago, from 10 years ago, where he obviously knew. And he also says something else. He says Nick's job is to discredit the real critics of Israel, like you and me, by being a hateful, crazy person, echoing Candace's criticism. Remember what Candace said on her show. She said, you hate Dave Smith for being Jewish, even though he's against Zionism. And Tucker echoes this critique. And think about the timing of this. My biggest show ever, she hits me up the next day. All of a sudden, she wants to do a show. She refused obstinately to talk to me for years, her entire career. And then for a year and a half since she got fired, the day after my biggest show ever, she wants to do a show and it's a hit piece. The hit piece backfires. Then she does an interview with Tucker. For the first time ever, he says my name, and it's this full frontal attack on my reputation, calling me a fed and echoing her critique, saying I'm a real hater of Jewish people, not a good faith critique of the neocons like Dave Smith, you, me, Joe Kent, and J.D. Vance, was Tucker's response. Now this backfires even bigger.
I wouldn't call Dave Smith a warmonger and neocon. That is, I'm not going to agree with everything. That's one thing. I actually agree with Dave Smith on a lot of stuff, but that's just one though.
And everybody and their brother says, even if I like Tucker, Nick raised some very good points about him. I do this blowout show. It gets almost 1 million views. Everybody loves it. Even people that are friends with Tucker are calling me privately and saying it was dishonorable what he did. You are 100% right. You killed it. And I'm not talking about anyone in particular because like a fucking dozen mutual friends said this to me. Now, fast forward after that, Candace Owens has Milo Yiannopoulos on her show. Milo, who 3 years ago, Candace Owens said was deranged, a psychopath, traffics in blackmail. Milo accused Candace Owens' husband of being gay for 5 years. He said that Candace was George Farmer's beard and it was an arranged marriage.
Damn.
Candace called me up during the A24 campaign and said, you need to get rid of Milo. He's going to ruin Kanye. He's going to ruin Ye. All of a sudden, she has Milo on her show. Does she confront him about blackmail, about him being a federal informant?
That just makes him look all fake as fuck, man. Sorry for my language. They're both talking shit about each other for a while. He's talking about her husband, and then they act all buddy-buddy on the show, but not when Nick's on. It was almost like a plan, like a hit job.
Does she confront him about his accusations about her husband? She claims to be this, trad wife, make him a sandwich. She's going to call me out on everything. She call out Milo, calling her husband gay, who pays for the roof over her head where the interview's conducted? No. Then a week later, Elon Musk is replying to Milo. Milo is doing a spree on Twitter, accusing me of everything under the sun, as he always does. I'm a liar. I'm not an artist. My no-fly list was fake. My money forfeiture was fake. The no-fly list thing was under different pretenses. You're a federal informant, but also you're not smart enough to be an informant. And Elon Musk is replying to this, calling me a Fed. Elon, why is he looking at Milo's timeline? Why is he weighing in on me now? A week after Candace had Milo on her show. Elon, who I haven't had an interaction with him in 7 months. And he is echoing what Tucker said, which is that I'm some intelligence asset. Now, I'm going to address the allegation, but first I have to set this up and show you this is a little bit strange. Candace Owens, who worked for Daily Wire, Turning Point USA, who took a check from Dennis Prager, who was run by Israeli intelligence. Tucker Carlson, whose dad ran the CIA's propaganda empire. Elon Musk, who is a literal defense contractor, whose Starshield, his Starlink Starshield defense system is the basis for U.S. fifth generational warfare. If you look at any Russian commentary on the war in Ukraine, they say the biggest advantage of the U.S. military, Elon Musk's Starshield. Elon Musk, who all of his people are in the Department of Defense. Elon runs the DOD. Elon's a defense contractor. His SpaceX rocket ships, his Starshield satellites power the U.S. military. And Milo, who is a federal informant, who is literally, you can Google Milo federal informant. It's on the record. These are the people who have been in politics for so many years. None of them, by the way, even from America. Like, think about this. Elon Musk, not from America. He's from South Africa. Candace Owens' husband, George Farmer, not from America. Milo, not from America. And Tucker Carlson, who spends all his time in Hungary with Viktor Orban, in Argentina with Javier Milei, two Philo-Semites. Tucker, whose dad is flying with him to Vietnam with John McCain, and Pakistan and Nicaragua with the Contras.
Damn, I have no clue.
These are billionaires, multimillionaires, people that weren't born in America, people that serve at the pleasure of billionaires like Rebecca Mercer, like Rupert Murdoch. The list goes on and on. Elon Musk himself. And these four people are calling me, the guy from Chicago. I grew up in LaGrange Park in a $300,000 house. I went to public school. My dad worked for the tollway in the city. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Neither of them went to college. I went to Boston University and started an internet show and dropped out. And the richest man in the world, Tucker Carlson, who's at Fox News, whose dad ran the CIA, they're calling me controlled opposition. I'm the asset. Okay, that's rich. And by the way, none of them wanted anything to do with me. Candace doesn't want to do a show with me until I'm more famous than ever. Tucker doesn't want to say my name until a week after that backfired. Elon, for some reason, enters the fray after that backfired. But this is all totally organic, and they definitely believe what they're saying. They definitely believe what they're saying, and it's all authentic. Yeah. They're the champions of the people. They're definitely against Israel. Elon Musk, that was at Auschwitz and then had a personal private tour by Bibi Netanyahu looking at the evidence of Hamas's terrorism. Tucker Carlson, who said, I spoke to my friends in the Israeli government and told them, I'm not your enemy. Candace Owens, who says it's not the Jews, it's the Frankists, it's the Khazarians. Milo, who on the show with Candace said, I talked to my friend in Israeli intelligence. Yeah, these four people are telling the truth. Nothing weird going on there. These four people that are deeply in bed with America's oligarchs, these four people who are all conspicuously tied to foreign countries, these four people that are all tied to Israel, Milo's lobbying firm, Go look at the website. It's Karen Giorno and Israel Firster, who ran Laura Loomer's campaign. It's Ron Coleman, an Orthodox.
I used to like Laura Loomer. What a disappointment that woman's become. Also, her Botox, it just looks horrible. She looks like the dude off of, what's that movie? The guy that comes out on the tricycle. It will come back to me, but I'm going to come back to that comment. Saw, that's it. The bad guy in Saw. That's how Laura Loomer's face looks like. She is obsessed with Israel. She should just move there for all of us.
Jew lawyer and the biggest rabbi in Omaha, Nebraska. These are the people that are accusing me. They have something to say about me. Really? Okay, well, let's talk about the allegation. We'll pull it up. We'll show you all the receipts right here. You want an answer? I'll give you the answer. We'll look at the tweets first. I'll pull them up for you right now. This is Elon Musk's tweet. So here's Milo. He's replying to a video of me where I said, "We are taking the Capitol back. Keep marching. Don't relent. Break down the barriers and disregard the police. This Capitol belongs to us now. How has he not been arrested?" Says the commentator. By the way, the commentator whose profile picture is J.D. Vance. It's interesting. Who has also blocked this burner account. Milo writes, "No charges, because Nick was one of the 30 or so confidential informants working for the FBI on January 6th to entrap Trump voters. His victims were tortured for years in jail. 5 are dead." My victims were tortured in jail and died. Elon Musk replies, drawing attention to it, obviously. Milo replies, "I recommend looking over Nick's account for evidence of botting, paid engagement over the past year. You may be the only person who can figure out who's pulling the strings of this nasty little weirdo."
Does anyone even know who Milo was? I had no clue who Milo was until Nick brought him up. But I heard a couple minutes with him and Candace. He wasn't intriguing to me at all. He seemed like a grifter. What do you guys think? Do you guys know who this Milo character is?
Maybe it's still his best mate, the banned pedophile, Ali. So now it's a call for sense. Do you see how this works? I'm on a generational run. They bring up this live from 5 years ago. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you need to ban him. It's all bot networks. All those people that are saying it is about the Jews. We don't want Israel controlling our government. The Jews have too much power because they're bringing us into a war with Iran. J.D. Vance is an agent of the deep state. He's a fake. He's an artifice. Tucker's Dan Rad in the CIA. Anyone who's interested in that, they're all bots. They're all bots. They need to be shut down. Nick Fuentes needs to be shut down. They all need to be censored. Do you see? There's another tweet. I'll go back to my timeline. Milo writes in the second tweet today, "I remember when Nick had his money frozen by the DOJ. Ask him how he got them to unfreeze it. Answer, informing. Then ask when it was unfrozen. Ask for proof. He was lying to fans every day, taking cash off teens, claiming his account was frozen 6 months after he got it back." Elon says, "Doesn't make sense the FBI leaves Fuentes alone unless he's an asset of some kind."
Yeah, I heard about that too, Jonathan. That was the first time I heard of Fuentes. It was like sabotage for Trump, but I never looked into him or really listened to him. So yeah, it's crazy. Same time frame.
Well, let me tell you what happened to me after. Well, let's actually just start from the beginning. I'm going to reveal some never before seen screenshots. I'm going to tweet them right now. I'm going to post them on Twitter and we'll read along for you to see. I'm going to post the screenshots of what Milo himself said to me on January 5th, 2021.
Put him on blast.
And I'm going to write from Milo accusing me of being a federal informant after January 6th. And I'm going to make sure I have all the screenshots, and then I'm going to read them to you, and you can all read them. You can all read along. Never before seen. You know, the good thing about telling the truth is you never have to worry about getting caught up in all the lies. That's a good thing. You know, when you're a liar, you have to worry about text messages from 4 years ago because the story's always changing based on what suits. But first, let's start with the text messages from Milo. This is January 5th, 2021. I said, hey, what did the feds say to you? Apparently, Baked Alaska got a visit as well. On January 5th, the day before J6, Milo posted on his Telegram channel that the feds told him something about January 6th. Milo replied, lots of Proud Boys are getting them. I think they're trying to keep obvious targets away. It would not serve their cause if Enrique or Gavin or I were killed. It might actually kick off a right-wing riot at last. It would not serve the federal government's interests if Milo, Gavin, or the Proud Boys were there at J6. That's why they were warned. They want Republicans simmering, not boiling. Just between us, I was given a friendly warning that no law enforcement agency would be able to guarantee my safety.
Sorry for pausing it in this time. I want to read kind of what Milo has responded to after this. He said, so someone posted and said, Nick Fuentes collaborates with feds. He'd sell out anyone to avoid jail. If he were a drug dealer who flipped, he'd be dead. Supporting or following Fuentes means aligning with the feds. And Milo said, this conclusion is inescapable. It is also wholly independent form and entirely unaffected by what a wretched person Milo is. I understand he is very, very wretched indeed. He hasn't even really responded at all, it seems like, today on X about what Fuentes has said about him.
Safety. They basically said, we're asking you not to go. If you insist, it may become an instruction, meaning an insurrection, I think is what they meant. Or rather, they're ordering him not to go if he means instruction. We're asking you not to go if you insist. It may become an instruction. The FBI is telling him, you are hereby ordered not to go to J6. This is the day before. No one knew what was going to happen. No one knew there was going to be a riot. This is the afternoon of January 5th. And Milo says the feds told him, don't go. If you insist on going, we will order you not to go to January 6th. He says, looks like Enrique just got banned from the entire District of Columbia. I said, shit, okay. Thanks for telling me that. I'll keep it between us. Well, in case you lie about it 4 years later. I agree with what you said on Telegram. Something's up. I have a bad feeling about this one. Unmatched perspicacity. Imagine shooting a man with your last bullet. He stands there unfazed. I said, I'm going to go to the Trump rally at the Ellipse and then get out of Dodge. He said, that would be smart. Don't be out at night, whatever you do. And honestly, I would just not be out and about. You are recognizable enough now. Rally and fuck off is smart. I said, yup. Too much funny business going on to play around. Milo said, I've heard of 5 Proud Boys so far who got visits from the feds this morning. Mostly New York guys who weren't home or already left for DC who had it on their Ring cameras or their wives answered. I said, do you know if the feds had a similar message for them? He said, asking, don't feel left out. I said, I'm happy to be left out, LOL. Okay. This is the person accusing me of being a federal informant or asset during, before, or after January 6th. Somebody who literally received a tip the day before, along with apparently a dozen other people that were told, don't go to January 6th. That's what they were told. This is the person accusing me. So just so you understand, this is not even a good faith accusation. Milo has accused me of a lot of things over many years. Your viewership's botted. Your Twitter's botted. You've embezzled money. You are a dick to your followers. You're a bad boss. You're a fed. You're an informant. You're not an artist. You're this, you're that. You're with Ali. Around and around and around it goes. If somebody is just flinging shit at you constantly, looking for something to stick, that's a political attack. That's not somebody that's investigating the truth. Somebody that has, and if you look at Milo's timeline, It's literally just thousands of tweets about me every day for years. Every accusation under the sun. Oh, but looks like we found one that might work. This one's convenient. That's what it is. And this is the person saying it. He was talked to by the feds himself. Now, let me tell you what happened to me on January 6th. I went to the speech on the Ellipse. I had a VIP pass. I took Vince James. I took a friend of mine, and we were at the speech on the Ellipse. Now, I did not plan to go to the Capitol building. I had plans all throughout that day. I was going to do an interview with Alex Jones that night. I was going to have dinner with a couple of friends of mine at an Italian restaurant. I had plans all throughout the night on January 6th. I had no plans of even being at the Capitol building. But I was behind Alex Jones when the speech happened, and somebody came up and said, Alex Jones is going to lead the march with President Trump to the...
By the way, who's tired of the conspiracy theories? We were all led by like a lot of people in Trump's administration. The first one about the supposed like big time arrests were supposed to happen because they committed treason on the 2020 election by rigging the election, which we now could talk about on YouTube, which we know happened. I'm still flabbergasted how this Trump administration has arrested 0 other people, the high names who are involved with the rigging of the election in 2020. What about the Russia hoax by Obama? 0 arrests. It's pathetic.
Capitol. Trump himself said, we are going to march peacefully and make our voices heard at the Capitol. So I thought everybody was going. So I walked with the crowd to the Capitol. I took a bunch of pictures of my friends. And then somebody said, you got to give a speech. Because I gave speeches at all the other events. I went to Lansing, Atlanta, Harrisburg, Phoenix. I went to the Million MAGA marches, of which there were 2. And I gave these big speeches at all of them. I gave speeches at the U.S. Capitol, the state capitals, the governor's mansions.
Sorry, I'm going to pause it less. I just want to comment on this. Dan and Cash are the worst. They ran their mouths for 4 years about Epstein and now nothing. Yes, they told us not to believe anything. And then the minute they went into Trump's administration, they told us to believe what was said. Like, do they not realize how dumb they come across? They're literally questioning our intelligence, almost like we're idiots, like we can't connect 2 and 2 together. It's ridiculous. They don't want to expose Israel. That's what it comes down to. Google Milo fed informant proof he's all. Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. But it's infuriating how the Trump administration has really fumbled the ball with a lot of this stuff that's going on that Nick is exposing.
So somebody said, you got to give a speech. I said, yeah, all right. Can someone find me a megaphone? And somebody goes on it. They ran, they grabbed a megaphone. I jumped up, and I'll show you where I was. I'll show you precisely where I was. This is important evidence. We're getting into the nitty-gritty here. I said, all right, now this is where I was. Take a look at where I am. You can see very clearly where I was on the Capitol complex. This is me with the megaphone right here. That's Vince. That's my friend, former friend. Now, just soak in where I am. Look at this location in context of where the Capitol building is.
Back when people wore masks.
Now, if you look and pay attention, on the Capitol complex, I was right here at the, I think it's called the Circle of Peace. I was right here giving that speech. And if you look it up, the Peace Circle. This is the Peace Circle. That is the statue where I gave the speech. Now, look at the picture here. Okay, you can see this is the Peace Circle. This is the video. That is the statue where I was. It's the same statue. Now, if you look at a map, it is 500 feet from the Capitol building. 500 feet from where the building actually is. Now, everybody that got arrested, either two or three things were true about them. There were close to 2,000 people that got charged on January 6th, and one of three things was true about all of them. They were either charged with trespassing because they were on restricted grounds. They were charged with some form of violence or vandalism because of an altercation with media or police, or they broke something. Or third, they were involved in a militia. Out of 2,000 defendants, one of those things is true about all of them. The yellow line is where the barricades were. I was not on restricted grounds. These are the restricted grounds. I was not on them. I was 500 feet from the building. When I said take down the barricades, disregard the police, I was talking about the barricades on the lawn here. And by the way, nobody on the lawn even got charged. Nobody that was on the lawn got charged for being on the lawn. There were thousands of people on the lawn. People got charged for being inside the building, being in the threshold. They got charged if they beat up cops, broke stuff, or they got charged because they were either in the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, or the 3%ers. I didn't fight with cops or break anything. I wasn't in a militia. I wasn't on restricted grounds. 500 feet from the building. Now, something else happened after that. So I gave the speech. I wasn't on restricted grounds. And by the way, I was with a group of about 20 people. Not one of them got charged because I led them away from the Capitol. I was with and the people there, they could testify to this or not, but the guy that was standing next to me, all of them. Vince James was right here. He did not get charged. This doofus was here. He did not get charged. This guy was here. He did not get charged. This guy was there. He did not get charged. Or I'm sorry, I don't have let me go back. I don't have it in front of me. Vince James here, not charged. Doofus did not get charged. This guy. None of these people got charged. And that's because I was with the group walking to the Capitol. I gave the speech. And then I said, this is getting hairy. This is getting dicey. Tear gas started coming down. I said, let's get out of here. We all left. So this idea that I was ordering people into the Capitol, not true. Not true at all. Everybody that was with me did not get charged. I led people away from the Capitol, but that's what happened. Now, a couple of other things happened after this. This is very critical. This is pursuant to the information about the freezing of the funds. What happened a couple of months before, I guess about 1 month before January 6th, which should be mentioned, is that on December 8th, 2020, so this is after the election, but before January 6th. On December 8th, 2020, I got a very large Bitcoin donation. I got an email from a random address. It said, hey, I just sent you some Bitcoin. I said, oh, cool, thanks. I'll check my wallet. Never heard back from this person. I checked my wallet. He sent me 13.5 Bitcoin worth $250,000 from an email that I'd only corresponded with one other time. He sent me $1,000 in Bitcoin for my birthday. That's how he got my address. On my birthday, he said, what's your address? I said, this is my Bitcoin address. He sent me $1,000. 4 months later in December, he said, hey, sent you some Bitcoin. Never heard from him again. I sent him an email. I said, thank you so much. Let's get on a call. But I never heard back. It was a mystery. That is until after January 6th. Now, I thought about this a lot. I sold some of the Bitcoin. I'm not going to tell you how much, but I sold a lot of it on my Coinbase account. And I sent the money from Coinbase to my Bank of America checking account. A couple of weeks after January 6th, there was a report by a website called Chainalysis. Chainalysis is a CIA-backed nonprofit that analyzes cryptocurrency transactions. And they took an interest in the donation because of what transpired at J6th. They identified me as a prominent guy at the Capitol, and my Bitcoin address is public, so you can look at who sent money to it. And so they saw that this big transaction took place. So the CIA-backed nonprofit Chainalysis, meaning like the blockchain, they looked at the transaction. This is what they wrote about it. This was on January 15th, 2021. Or excuse me, January 14th, 2021. It says, quote, on December 8th, 2020, a donor sent 28 Bitcoin worth $522,000 at the time of the transfer to 22 separate Bitcoin addresses in a single transaction. Many belong to far-right activists and internet personalities. Nick Fuentes received 13.5, worth approximately $250,000 at the time of the transfer, making him by far the biggest beneficiary of the donation. However, several others received significant funds as well, including the anti-immigration organization VDare, alt-right streamer Ethan Ralph, and many other addressees whose owners are yet unidentified. Some of the others were Patrick Casey. Patrick Casey got 1 Bitcoin. American Renaissance got a Bitcoin. Gab, BitChute, Daily Stormer, Un's Review, BitChute guy named Mr. Obvious, a YouTuber named Luke Smith. This guy gave 28 Bitcoin, half of which went to me, and everyone else got 1. And it was like a who's who of everyone in the dissident right. Amran, VDare, Un's Review, Gab, BitChute, everybody got some. Here's where it gets interesting. Searching for information on the email address connected to the Bitcoin address led us to a personal blog we believe belongs to the extremist donor, and which identifies him as a French computer programmer. The blog had been inactive since 2014 until a new post was published on December 9th, the day after the donations were made. Shockingly, the post appears to be a suicide note. And I'm not going to read the whole note. You can find it online. It's on the Chainalysis article. But long story short, it's a French computer hacker who started receiving Bitcoin in exchange for his services in 2013. According to his suicide note, he got diagnosed with a neurological disorder with no cure. It's the most painful disease known to man with no cure. And he decided he was going to commit suicide. He got a luxury hotel room in Paris and decided to commit suicide. But before he killed himself, he said, I'm going to donate money. He said, I will bequeath my fortune to people that I think are defending Western civilization, because he was like right wing. And so this is one excerpt from the suicide note. It says, quote, I can't imagine myself spending my last days more and more diminished, not contributing to society, not fighting to preserve it. And that's one of the things that completely changed for me these last years. I care about what happens after my death. That's why I decided to leave my modest wealth to certain causes and people. I think and hope they will make a better use of it. This is Chainalysis again. It says French publication 20 Minutes confirmed the death of a French computer programmer who appears to have been the owner of the Bitcoin wallet from which the donations were sent, and the blog on which the suicide note we posted above was published. Reporter Philip Berry spoke to someone who knew the donor personally, who confirmed his death by suicide on December 8th. So this guy who I never knew, never met, never really talked to, was suffering in an extraordinary way, resolved to commit suicide, which he admitted in the suicide note was a selfish act. But he went out with a selfless act. He donated his fortune to the people he thought were preserving and fighting for civilization. And for whatever reason, he saw me as the most important figure. That's why he gave me half of the total donation, obviously.
That's crazy.
And that had nothing to do with January 6th. Now, given the nature of it, it was such a large and unusual sum of money. I never had a big transaction before that, so it was the size of the transaction. It was facilitated by Bitcoin, and it came from a foreign country. Now, all of that is enough to warrant attention by itself, but especially after January 6th, because I was such a vocal proponent of Stop the Steal. I was going to Atlanta, Harrisburg, Phoenix. I was all over. So naturally, the feds were looking for foreign financing. That was their narrative. That's what they went with. They said this was foreign financing of these riots and insurrections in January 6th and all that. So they were looking at me. They were looking at Alex Jones. They were looking at these types of people. They found this transaction and they flagged it. And they said, before this insurrection, this unusually large Bitcoin transaction from a foreign country went through. Now they investigated it and they found this had nothing to do with January 6th. If it did, why would they give money to Un's Review? That had nothing to do with J6. Why would they give money to Gab, BitChute, Ethan Ralph? I mean, none of these people really had anything to do with Stop the Steal or J6. They weren't bankrolling it. They weren't financing it. Many of them weren't even there. So what's more, the January 6th event was not even announced until after December 8th. So the donor was literally dead before January 6th was even put on the schedule. Forget about, this was masterminded, orchestrated. The guy died before the event was even announced because all of that was moving very quickly. If you remember in 2020, we scrambled to do these protests and everyone was just doing it to defend Trump in the stolen election. So one had nothing to do with the other. Some French computer programmer who I didn't know, never met, bequeathed his fortune to a dozen people and then killed himself. Now, I happen to be doing these protests because—
Anyone that says the election wasn't stolen in 2020, you are a moron. It is not hard to find out that was the fact. It was easily stolen.
I said the whole year the election would be stolen. I said since June 2020, it's going to be a red mirage. I said in October 2020, it's going to look like we're winning, then we're going to lose because of the mail-in ballots. Then it happened. So we kind of bootstrapped it. I drove to Lansing. We flew to these capitals. We tried to put something together and to fight to get the state electors to claw back, the state representatives to take back the electors in the Electoral College and get Trump to stay in office. While this was happening, some guy who I didn't know killed himself and bequeathed half of his fortune to me. And God bless him and God rest his soul. Now, after J6th, the government took an interest in me and the donation. And Chainalysis posted this. This was posted on January 14th. 10 days later, the Bank of America account was frozen. Now think about it. I received the Bitcoin transaction. I transfer it to Coinbase. I sell it. I transfer the cash to Bank of America. The Chainalysis report comes out and says there's this weird Bitcoin transaction. 10 days later, the Department of Justice freezes that Bank of America account. And I'll read to you the protective order that released the funds because I have it on hand. I'll post it. I'll post it under the Milo receipts so you can see it, and I'll read it. You want the receipts? You got them. You want my life? You want transparency? Here you go. So I just posted on Twitter, and I'll show you right now.
Americanism, not globalism.
Hit the wrong button. Hit the wrong button. Show's not over. Okay. I'll show you the order from the DOJ that I received on July 21st, 2021. Whoops. This is from the Department of Justice. It says, to whom it may concern, on January 23rd, 2021, this office submitted a letter stating that the above referenced accounts at Bank of America were subject to seizure and forfeiture on the ground that they contain proceeds of money laundering, wire fraud, and threat violations. We requested that the above referenced accounts be frozen pending further action from the office. This office is hereby withdrawing the January 23rd request to freeze the above referenced accounts. We appreciate your assistance in this matter.
They just took 250 G's away from him that was donated from someone who passed away. That is disgusting that Bank of America did that.
Now, the reason I'm reading that one first is to show you that was the reason it was frozen. They froze the money because they thought this was like money laundering from a foreign country to fund January 6th. And I'll read you, this is the email from Elizabeth Alloy. She's the attorney that signed the letter. So you can see down here, it says Elizabeth Alloy. This was the attorney. I'll read to you the email she sent in February. So the Chainalysis report goes out January 14th. The money is frozen January 23rd. The money actually gets frozen in the bank on January 25th. That's when the account was actually frozen. Now, for weeks, I didn't even know what happened, okay? All I knew, and this is the thing about this stuff, is it was like 6 a.m. I had been up all night. I was getting ready to go to bed. And I checked my Bank of America balance because I checked my email before I went to bed and I saw my debit card declined. And I said, that's weird. So I checked Bank of America, and my account had a legal order. It said zero balance. The balance is being held in a legal order. And I freaked out. You know, a lot of people don't understand this. When you get persecuted by the government, they just come for you. It is shock and awe. So they don't send you a letter. They don't call you on the phone. They just do shit to you. So it was January 25th. I'm chilling. I'm getting ready for bed. I checked my bank balance, $0. Frozen, legal order. I call Bank of America. I say, what is going on? My account balance is zero. They tell me, all we can say is your account is on hold. This is like a theme. It's like Kafka-esque. You encounter these like bureaucrats. You're calling like the Bank of America customer service number, and you're like, hey, I'm like a targeted individual. My account balance is zero. What's going on? And you're talking to some like customer service rep, and they're like, all we can say is your money's gone now. And you're like, tell me more. And they're like, we can't. It's a legal order.
That's bullshit.
So weeks go by. And eventually I call every day. Now, in the meantime, I'm like getting screwed because that's all my money. Now, conspicuously enough, they didn't freeze all my accounts. They didn't freeze my Merrill Lynch account. They didn't freeze some of my other credit cards, just the Bank of America account that touched the tainted funds that were related to the Bitcoin. I'm calling Bank of America every day. What's going on? Do you have an update? Finally, at this point, I learned the script. And I know how to get to the right person. So finally, I get to the second or third person. I go, listen, I said, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. I'm going to tell you what's up. You're going to put me on hold. You're going to talk to your manager. And then you're going to come back and say, you can't give me any more information. So go ahead. So she goes, I'll put you on hold. She comes back. She goes, I have good news. I have information. I said, really? She said, yes. I have the phone numbers of the people that put the legal order on your account. She says, and they are Elizabeth Alloy, I forget the other names, but this person, that person, they're in my notes. I'll pull them up just for fun. If I can find them. Maybe not. I don't know if I could find them, but Elizabeth Alloy was one of them. She said, these are their emails. These are their numbers. I said, oh, thank you so much. So at this point, I hire an attorney. And the attorneys reach out to the Justice Department, Elizabeth Alloy and the others. And this is what the Justice Department said to me. This was in February. They said to my attorney, Bob, Jesse Brooks was one of them. Jesse Brooks replies to my attorney, Bob, and she says, thanks for reaching out. I hope you are well. To answer your questions, the government does not have a timeline for the unfreezing of the money. Mr. Fuentes is currently a subject of investigation due to his placement on the Capitol grounds on J 6th. I'm CCing my co-counsels Risa Burkauer and Elizabeth Alloy for further correspondence. All the best, Jesse Brooks. So at long last, I had an answer. Now, over the period of like 4 or 5 months, we're pushing them. My attorneys are pushing them. Where's the money? Where's the money? Finally, 6 months to the day, July 23rd, 6 months after the freezing of the funds. Okay, you saw the letter. I'll pull it up again just in case you're doubting me here because we want to bring the receipts. Okay, this is from the DOJ. It says on January 23rd, we put the funds under a freeze. This is dated July 21st, 2021. So it's 6 months to the day. Here's what happened. I was clearly a person of interest on January 6th because I was leading a lot of Stop the Steal stuff, because I gave a speech, because a lot of people believed I was inside the building. There was a picture going around of someone that looked like me. That guy wound up getting arrested. So I was leading a lot of them. Some people placed me in the Capitol due to a blurry photo from a live stream. There was this weird transaction. Chainalysis ran it by the DOJ. They froze the funds. They put me on a no-fly list so I couldn't flee, so I couldn't use the money to hire an attorney, so I couldn't relocate. They investigated me for money laundering, and they found out that what happened was legit. I was not on restricted grounds. I wasn't inside the building, And the money was not the result of money laundering or anything like that. I never talked to the FBI. I never talked to the DOJ. It never happened. I never got interviewed. They never showed up at my house. Never happened. And here's the proof. In January 2022, I got subpoenaed by the House Select Committee on January 6th. And they gave me a schedule of 15 different things to turn over. They said, we want all your text messages, all your emails, all your phone calls, all this stuff. I didn't give them shit. I didn't give them not one thing. But they did call me before the committee to answer questions. I pled the Fifth Amendment on everything. Literally everything. They said, do you know who Donald Trump is? I said, Fifth Amendment.
That's hilarious.
I said, what was it? Something, I had a whole script. It was like, in accordance with the Fifth Amendment, and I do tend to blah. It was like a whole thing, but it was like Fifth Amendment. Do you know that the pandemic happened? Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, like 100 times. This black chick said, do you support Hitler? Fifth Amendment. There's one question my attorney answered for me. I'll show it to you. Because this is my response to Elon Musk. This was the question. Mr. Fuentes, have you turned over any records or devices to federal law enforcement in connection with January 6th or since January 6th? And if you would like to take a minute to discuss, we can go off the record. Mr. Durkin, my lawyer, also recently passed. God bless him and rest his soul. A great lawyer. He said, thank you. Okay, we'll go back on the record at 3:15. Mr. Durkin, I can represent that he has, to his knowledge, not been interviewed by any law enforcement, federal law enforcement, or any law enforcement, or turned over any of his devices or anything else. So unless somebody was in his house under 2333, which I presume is like they broke into my house, or whatever, or the intelligence community is more clever than I think, as far as I know, the answer to that is no. This is under oath. This is under penalty of perjury. So you have Milo telling me on January 5th, the feds are telling me not to go. And
isn't it amazing how they made January 6th like the worst day in history, according to the Democrats? Yet they committed insurrections, as they call it, on a daily basis for years on end, and nothing was done about it.
I'm like, oh, really? Then you have under penalty of perjury. And by the way, people went to jail over perjury on this or over obstruction. Under penalty of perjury, they say, did you turn over devices? Did you talk to law enforcement? Could it be more unambiguous than this? He said, I can represent, to his knowledge, he has not been interviewed by any law enforcement, federal law enforcement, any law enforcement, or turned over any devices or anything else. And do you know how broad that is? No, nothing of that sort has ever happened. This was a full year. So back to Milo's question from the other tweet. Milo said, remember when Nick had his money frozen by the DOJ? Ask him how he got them to unfreeze it. Answer, informing. Then ask why it was or when it was unfrozen. Ask for proof. Well, I showed.
Amazing. An informant is calling a guy an informant. Laugh. So funny.
They froze it in January 2021. They unfroze it in July 2021. He says, why, when, ask for proof. There's the proof. I have an email from Elizabeth Alloy. She said, we froze the funds because of J6th. We have the legal order from the DOJ that says we froze your money on the 23rd. We unfroze it in July 2021. We have a statement from my lawyer under oath, under penalty of perjury, saying he did never interview with the DOJ or FBI having anything to do with J6 in any way ever. So if I informed to get my money frozen, then how could all of these things be true? Because if I informed to get the money unfrozen, that interview would have taken place between J6 2021 and July 23rd, 2021. But in January, or excuse me, when did the testimony even happen? I got subpoenaed in January 22. I think the interview was later in the year. So if the alleged informing took place in the first half of 21, how can my lawyer represent in 22 that I never interviewed with law enforcement? Who would I inform to? If I was informing to get the money frozen, it would be about J6 during that window of time to the DOJ and the FBI. That's federal law enforcement. So either my lawyer has to go to jail, and we have to go to jail for obstruction and perjury, or what's more likely is that a patriot, someone who actually is selfless, gave their money to me because they were inspired by the show, killed himself. It was like a wrong place, wrong time thing. They took an interest in me, in the money. They froze it. The 6 months that they could legally freeze the money without filing charges expired. They couldn't file charges because it was legit. They released it. And then a year later, I said I never talked to law enforcement. And there it is. But it gets even better. The proof gets even better. Because there's something else that we found out. This is a note that was taken by somebody who knew Bill Barr. And I'm going to read to you.
Bill Barr was Trump's first administration CIA director, was it? Or FBI director? But anyways, yeah, he is. No, CIA, yeah. Corrupt to the core. He actually was working in cahoots behind Trump's back while being part of his administration. Still not arrested.
The report about this note. I'll explain to you the significance. This just came out last week, okay? After January 6th, Trump's appointed Attorney General Bill Barr was working with the Democrats to go after the pro-Trump leadership that led the insurrection on J6th. According to Project Veritas, a whistleblower that knew Bill Barr has revealed who Bill Barr was targeting. Now, keep in mind, Bill Barr was CIA, and he ran the DOJ in January 2021. He was working with the Democrats to put together the hit list for the House Select Committee that I eventually got subpoenaed under. This is from Project Veritas. It says, a whistleblower under indictment by the U.S. Department of Justice and granted political asylum has provided Project Veritas with explosive evidence alleging secret meetings orchestrated by former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr, media figure Armstrong Williams, and other prominent D.C. insiders to plan the prosecution of Trump, his allies, and January 6 defendants. Patricia Lellis, hired in 21 by Armstrong Williams' media company, Howard Stirk Holdings, claimed she attended dozens of meetings where Barr and others devised legal strategies to target Trump supporters and block his political comeback. She provided Project Veritas with extensive handwritten notes and photos documenting these discussions, which took place from 21 until 23. Lellis detailed a September 13th, 2021 meeting involving herself, Armstrong Williams, CNN commentator Michael Singleton, and former AG William Barr, which focused on strategizing for the newly formed January 6th committee. She wrote, the investigation will be focused on people close to Trump and make efforts to formally prosecute these people. Her notes reveal that Barr provided a list of targets, including Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, Stuart Rhodes, Enrique Tarrio, Jeffrey Clark, the Oath Keepers, and the Proud Boys. Following this meeting, many of these individuals were subsequently subpoenaed to testify before the J6 committee or face charges related to J6 or the 2020 election. This is the list. This is the list before you right here. And this is the list. You can see, I can't read cursive very well, but if you read closely, you can see it. It says Michael Flynn. That's the first name. Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani. I think that says something Clark, something, Proud Boys people, Jim Jordan. And I'll move my camera out of the way so you can see the whole list. Whoops. At the bottom of the list, guess who? Nick Fuentes. Bill Barr, who was working with the Democrats on their J6 Select Committee hit list, I was on the hit list. I got subpoenaed after January 6th. That's where we testified. That's where me and my lawyer testified that I had never talked to federal law enforcement. Okay? There it is. Now, I want to go through some of the other evidence. Maybe this will be more compelling. So as I said, out of 2,000 January 6 defendants, they all had one among three things in common. They were either one, on protected or restricted capital grounds, which I was not. They were two, vandalizing infrastructure or fighting with cops and media, which I was not. Or three, they were members of the Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, or Three Percenters. Every single one had one of those things going on except me. People retort and they say, well, what about Brandon Straka? They say Brandon Straka, well, he was charged, but he also was not in the militia, also did not fight with the police, also was not inside the building. So what do you have to say about that? Well, I'll read to you Brandon Straka's complaint from the Department of Justice. We'll go through the receipts. This is from the DOJ. This is the official complaint against him. It says, quote, Straka reached the top of the stairs where he was behind a large crowd of people attempting to enter the Capitol through a single entrance. He began moving through the crowd of people to get closer. He asked, are people going in? What's the hold? As the crowd in front of him pushed their way into the entrance, he yelled, go, go, go. He could then be heard saying to somebody, I want to try. He continued to push forward with the crowd and appeared to get within several feet of the entrance to the Capitol. Now, remember, I was 500 feet away. He was in the threshold of the building. At around the 3:45 mark of the video, an officer from the U.S. Capitol Police holding a protective shield could be seen in the crowd. As individuals pushed past the officer toward the Capitol, he held the shield in the air. Straka yelled, take it away from him. Take the shield. Take it. The crowd successfully pulled the shield away from the officer as the officer appeared to be trying to move back toward the entrance of the building. The officer then went back into the crowd to get his shield back. Several people pulled on the shield as the officer grabbed it, thus pulling him deeper into the crowd. They pushed toward the officer as Straka and others chanted USA. Straka then moved to the entrance and appeared to get within a few feet of the doorway. Based on the foregoing, your affiant submits there is probable cause to believe Straka violated 18 U.S.C. 231A3 and 18 U.S.C. 2A, which make it unlawful to obstruct, impede, or interfere, or aid and abet another person to obstruct, impede, or interfere with any fireman or law enforcement officer lawfully engaged in the performance of his official duties incident to and during the commission of a civil disorder which in any way or degree obstructs, delays, or adversely affects the conduct or performance of any federally protected function, which I did not do. Based on the foregoing, your affiant submits there is probable cause to believe Straka violated 18 U.S.C. 1752A1 and 2, which makes it a crime to knowingly enter or remain in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority to do so. So the answer is no. For those that say, why was he not charged? I would say charged with what? What would I have been charged with that anyone else was charged with? Because what applies to Straka does not apply to me. He was in the doorway, imminently inciting a crowd to attack a specific police officer in the threshold of the building. I was 500 feet away saying in very vague terms, we're taking the Capitol back. If a lawyer looked at it, they would say that does not meet the definition of incitement or whatever they charged him with. I was not on the restricted grounds in the building. I was not a member of militia. I was not involved in a scuffle with a law enforcement or his riot shield or anything like that. I'll do you one better if you don't find this convincing. Let's say Straka is like me. He got charged and he made a deal. This is a story about his plea deal with the government. In spite of his big charge, he never got jail time. He got probation because he informed on his people. It says, quote, a pro-Trump organizer and social media influencer who spoke at a D.C. rally the day before the Capitol attack was sentenced to 3 years of probation on Monday. Brandon Straka admitted to recording himself telling the mob to go, go, go as they reached the Capitol and telling rioters who were wrestling a shield away from a Capitol officer to take it. He pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct in October.
That's crazy just for that.
In court filings last week, Straka's attorneys said he spoke to government investigators 3 times voluntarily and claimed the officials seemed to be trying to establish that there was an organized conspiracy involving the president to overturn the results of the election. The DOJ acknowledged in court filings he was cooperative in these interviews. So, first of all, they say, well, Straka got charged with the same thing you should have been. Well, that's not true at all. Because he was in the doorway, I was 500 feet away. He was involved in a scuffle with law enforcement, I was not. They say this is evidence you're an informant. But he got charged, unlike me, and he got a sweetheart plea deal because he informed, because he cooperated. So which is it? I'll do you one better. There's a story of Ray Epps. Tucker Carlson says that Ray Epps was a federal informant. He incited the riot, and he's protected as a confidential, what did they say? An unindicted co-conspirator, an unnamed, unidentified co-conspirator. Just one problem. Ray Epps was also charged. This is from the New York Times. It says, quote, Ray Epps, the former Trump supporter who became a target of a conspiracy theory that he was an undercover government agent who helped to instigate the J6 Capitol, or the Capitol on J6th, was sentenced on Tuesday to a year of probation for his own role in the riot instead of the 6 months that prosecutors had requested he serve in prison. The probation sentence imposed after Mr. Epps had pleaded guilty last year to a single count of disorderly conduct stemming from his presence in the pro-Trump mob brought his prosecution to a close. Now, in spite of this, people still insist he's an informant. So let's just rewind here. As I said from the beginning, if nothing at all happened to me, they would say, that's suspicious, you're a Fed. But something did happen to me. I got put on the federal no-fly list. My money got frozen. I got banned from Facebook and Instagram. I got debanked. I got banned from DLive. I was banned from all of streaming for years. I'm still banned from credit card processing to this day, still banned from Facebook and Instagram to this day. And they say, oh, well, even though stuff happened to you, that stuff was done to you, and that's why you made a deal. Okay. So if nothing happens to you, you're a Fed. If something happens to you, you're still a Fed. Then enter charges. They say, well, you did not get charged, so you're a Fed. But people that got charged demonstrably were informants. That's how they get you to inform. They charge you with something, and then they say, we will lighten the sentence if you inform. That's what Straka did. Maybe that's what Epps did. Either way, both of them are informants, and one of them is still accused of being an informant, even though he was charged. So if you don't get charged, like me, you're a Fed. If you do, like Ray Epps, well, you're still a Fed. What does Tucker say? Tucker says the feds charged Ray Epps to make it look like he wasn't a Fed. Okay? So whether nothing happens or something happens, you're damned. If you don't get charged or you do get charged, you're damned. If you don't get charged, well, that's because you're law enforcement. But if you do, that's law enforcement making it look like you're not law enforcement.
True.
So there's no scenario where you can't be caught. Even if you testify under oath, even if you didn't commit a crime, you didn't do anything wrong, no matter what, they will always insinuate that you're a federal agent. But this is not new. Like every other stratagem, like every other tactic, this isn't new. I'll show you this article. This is on Wikipedia. Okay? This is called badjacketing. There's a word for it. Badjacketing is a term for planting doubt on the authenticity of an individual's bona fides or identity. An example would be creating suspicion through spreading false rumors, creating suspicion, manufacturing evidence that falsely portrays someone in a community organization as an informant, member of law enforcement, or guilty of malfeasance, such as skimming organization funds. Snitch jacketing is a variant that specifically aims to present the target as an informer. Scholar Mark Anthony Neal writes that the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover used the technique against the Black Panther Party and other Black Power organizations as part of its counterintelligence operations. He writes this technique was effective in isolating key individuals, forcing them out of the organization, and that its effectiveness was enhanced by the tendency of Black Power activists to divide among rigid racial, ideological, and gendered lines. The practice was notably used by FBI informants to create a climate of suspicion within new left groups, which resulted in the murder of some activists subjected to badjacketing. Okay, this is what they do. Now, why would they badjacket me? It's obvious. There's no evidence that I've ever worked with law enforcement. If there is, show me. Kash Patel, show me the evidence. Milo's friends with Kash Patel. Show us the evidence. I knew Milo for years. Text messages, phone calls. Is there any evidence? Jaden McNeil is another one, former associate of mine. He used to get coffee for me. He was a good bitch. He was a good boy for me. He was a bitch. He was the office bitch.
We got to rewind that. I want to hear that again. That was hilarious.
Show me. Kash Patel, show me the evidence. Milo's friends with Kash Patel. Show us the evidence. I knew Milo for years. Text messages, phone calls. Is there any evidence? Jaden McNeil is another one, former associate of mine. He used to get coffee for me. He was a good bitch. He was a good boy for me. He was a bitch. He was the office bitch. He's been pushing this for years. He sat in meetings with my attorney. I knew this guy for years. Does he have any evidence of this other than these insinuations? Is there any evidence at all? Or is it just promulgating rumors and suspicion based on something controversial that happened a few years ago? Now, even though I'm proving a negative, I'm still doing a good job. Even though I have to prove a negative, I still have a timeline. I still have the receipts. I have testimony under oath. And by the way, isn't the goal of the government to promote informants? If I'm an informant, why am I not allowed to have a bank account? Riddle me that one. I got banned from Bank of America, Chase Bank, US Bank, Inland Bank, Fifth Third Bank. I got banned from Epic Pay, Authorize.net, PayPal, Stripe. I'm banned from every payment processor, every bank. Is that what you do to an informant? The That's SPLC insane. Put a picture of my house on their front page to get me killed. The ADL got me banned on Twitter. I got banned from Facebook and Instagram and D Live the same day. I got put on the no-fly list. They froze my money. Then a year later, I got subpoenaed in part because Bill Barr, a CIA FBI spook, put me on his enemies list. So did they not get the memo? When exactly did I become an informant? When exactly did that happen? And I would ask them, I've given you the receipts. Now show me the actual concrete evidence of who exactly I'm working for, in what capacity, and how they must have missed all this stuff.
They got nothing on them. At this point, it's just calling them names and talking shit about them because both sides are literally agreeing with what he's saying. Something you don't see every day.
The reason I'm banned from banks is because of regulations that go all the way to the top because of reputational risk that come from Visa and MasterCard and the Federal Reserve. Facebook and Instagram were taking orders from the Biden administration during COVID regarding other things. The House Select Committee under Biden subpoenaed me. And if I said I'm not a Fed and Biden's DOJ knew that I was, why didn't they pursue me for perjury? Why did they not get the memo? Who am I working for? When did I start? In what capacity? And why did everybody miss the memo? And here's another question. For all the people that are constantly attacking me for this, where were they during Stop the Steal? Sorry, where was Tucker Carlson? Where was Elon Musk? Where was Candace Owens? Because I'll tell you something, the 2020 election was stolen. It was a coup. The number of mail-in ballots went from 30% in 2016 to 70% in.
Not just that, but the Hunter Biden laptop, the 50 intelligence officers who vowed that was Russian disinformation, the Russia hoax. I mean, so many hoaxes. And then let's see, the ballots, that was crazy. They weren't even IDing people in my state of California. They were letting illegals by the thousands, hundreds of thousands vote without requiring voter ID. So it was
2020. Entire countries don't even have mail-in ballots because they're so prone to fraud. And in 2020, the proportion of mail-in ballots doubled. They solicited them in the mail. They sent ballots in the mail and said, drop them off at a drop box whenever. And unsupervised drop boxes that were open for months. The election was rigged. They installed Joe Biden, who did a vaccine mandate, who did a wealth transfer, who did quantitative easing, who did the war in Ukraine. I was one of the Trump supporters that answered the call and said, this is a rigged election. We need to bootstrap this and get on the ground. And I paid my own way. I did my own rally in Lansing, Michigan. I flew to rallies in Phoenix, Arizona, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia, Washington, D.C. They wouldn't even let me go to these things. I was told by the Oath Keepers, we will not protect you from Antifa because of who you are. And I went anyway, wearing a bulletproof vest.
Antifa is ran by spoiled little rich kids who have no jobs. So probably a lot of them have rich parents. They just bailed out of jail the next day. These white liberals.
Because the election was being stolen, and I knew that on the other side of the stolen election was unprecedented corruption. The vax mandate, the Ukraine war, all the BLM stuff, giving COVID aid to blacks first, not even letting white people apply, the quantitative easing, the growing of the money supply. Where were all these people criticizing me? And this is the theme here, by the way. All these people that are accusing me of anything. Sorry, where were they? In 2017, I was at Charlottesville. You know what Milo was doing? He was informing to the FBI about Richard Spencer, who organized it. In 2017, I was talking about Israel and about the racial replacement migration. You know what Tucker was doing? He was on Fox News taking money from Rupert Murdoch. Candace Owens, I believe at that time, was at Turning Point USA, or she was running a dox site to dox bullies on the internet called Social Credit or something like that. Where were you in 2019 during the Groyper War? I was leading young men into a war against Charlie Kirk saying, why are you pro-legal immigration? Why do you put Israel first? Why are you promoting degeneracy when you should be promoting Christianity? Damn. Where was Candace Owens? She was working for Turning Point USA. Where was Milo? Who even knows? Doing cocaine somewhere.
With Hunter Biden.
Where was Tucker Carlson? He gave us a little shout out on his show while he was pushing a colorblind meritocracy, inclusive populism. And then in 2020, think of this. A French guy who is sentenced to death. Life could not get more unfair. Some people get rich getting paid by Dennis Prager. Some people make $20 million a year getting paid by Rupert Murdoch. Some guy, by the fortune or misfortune of being born, is sentenced to a life of unbearable pain that cannot be ameliorated or cured. Now, he could have just killed himself. There's a lot of things he could have done. He writes a suicide note and says, killing myself is a selfish act, but I'm going to go out with a selfless act. I'm inspired by Nick Fuentes, by Ron Unz, by Andrew Anglin, by Ethan Ralph, for that matter, by Andrew Torba. Before I die, I'm going to give them my money so they can keep up the fight that I can't do because I'm in so much pain and there's nothing that they can do for me. And I receive the money and I go and put myself on the line at these rallies. I go and they're telling me, we can't protect you from Antifa because of who you are. If something happens to you, we can't protect you. Milo's getting told by the feds, don't go. It's going to be terrible. And so he stays home. But I'm there to support the president, to prevent this thing from happening. And the pattern is that I fought.
He should be Trump's right-hand advisor, straight up.
Candace keeps saying this is something that happened to me 10 years ago. This is something that has been happening to me. Been happening. Over and over. For criticizing Israel, I got a Media Matters hit piece about me written. People are trying to kill me at Boston University. For going to Charlottesville, I got fired at RSBN. For pushing the issue, I got banned from PayPal. A year later, Ashley St. Clair got fired for being in a picture with me. When we led the Groyper War, I got banned from YouTube because one of Trump's fixers leaned in and they called me a Holocaust denier and smeared me that way. After I went and fought on January 6th, I had my money frozen. I got banned from DLive. I lost my livelihood and my career. I got banned on Twitter 6 months later. I made no money for years. I was operating at a loss just to keep the live stream going on Cozy TV. And then I get accused of being a Fed after all that. Now in the middle of this, calling out Trump correctly, blowing up, generational run. Now the stuff resurfaces. You have people that are fighting for the truth.
His critique on Trump is very valid. I don't agree with everything, but I agree with most of what he says.
And inspiring true belief, which, by the way, is impossible to fake. People that have watched me for years, there's nothing to hide. You're on a live stream. There's nothing to hide. When you come in, day out, people that love me, people that love this movement, that are inspired by it, they're inspired because it's the true information, because it persists in spite of the bullshit. The canceling, the smears, the lies, calling me a Nazi Jew hater, kicking me off Twitter, saying, oh, he's a troll, he's a bad faith actor. It's true belief in what we're doing. People see this show, they see the lengths I've gone to push this message for which there is no counter argument. And they truly believe in it, truly are inspired by it. That's why people have died for this movement. That's why people that are dying support this movement. That's why people say, I will kill and die for this movement. And you have these shitheels that took millions of dollars from the enemy for years, that were complicit in it, that had no problem lying, that are involved in every weird thing under the sun. They're going to come around a year later, after it became the consensus of the planet. Tucker, stop taking $20 million a year from Rupert Murdoch last year to suddenly get red-pilled on the Jews. Candace Owens got done. She got up off her knees for Ben Shapiro, Dennis Prager, Charlie Kirk, and the rest of them last year to say, I think there's something up with the Jews. And now they want to impugn my motivations. They want to use insinuation, calumny, rumors, gossip to try to get people not to listen to me. It's bullshit. And everybody can see it for what it is. It's so transparent. For 10 years, I was the most canceled, most censored man in America. I'm not singing the victim complex about it. That's just what happened. Everybody knows it. Are we all going to play stupid now? Try searching my name on TikTok. Tell me what the result is. Search Nick Fuentes. Tell me I'm not canceled. It's just the truth. And now that I'm breaching containment, now that I've successfully defeated that and am pushing the very issues that got me canceled, not only are they trying to fight my credibility, but they're undermining the very basis of my cancellation in the first place. And it harkens back to what Tucker Carlson said about Pat Buchanan. Tucker said, when Pat Buchanan is called an anti-Semite, he said, Buchanan likes to say the cabal that controls Washington is coming after me. He's playing the victim. Tucker says, maybe you're just crazy. Maybe you're just truly an anti-Semite. It's what he said 25 years ago about Pat Buchanan. They're saying the same thing now. They're saying you are a legitimate crazy person, anti-Semite. And if you got persecuted by the feds or canceled or blacklisted, well, that's because you are legitimately a bad person. You see this layered denial here? It's layered like this. Now think about it. Candace brings me on her show in June to say, you're a real Jew hater. She said, when you got canceled by the Jews, did that make you hate Jews? I said, no. She goes, really? Well, here's this clip where you called out Aiden Ross and Dave Smith for being Jewish. She said, you have a problem with Dave because he was born Jewish. She called me an anti-Semite. A few weeks after it drops, she goes with Tucker Carlson. What do they say? He's a Jew hater and he's a Fed. And his job is to destroy people by association. He's not just a real anti-Semite, but he's also controlled opposition. Now we have a couple weeks later. He's controlled opposition, they say. And when he gets persecuted, no, he's not being persecuted for being an anti-Semite, for being a truth teller. No, let's break apart the narrative that he was persecuted. He was never persecuted. He was never persecuted. He's just a bad guy. Do you see the layered denial? You are a legit Jew hater. Insinuating that Judaism has anything to do with what's going on is hateful. Why are you pushing this? Because your controlled opposition made to look the people that aren't blaming the Jews look bad. And why was Tucker and Candace promoted, but you were persecuted? Well, because you were never really persecuted at all. It only looks that way because you're playing the victim and so on and so forth. This is like a layered denial to not only steer the traffic away from me, but also to destroy my credibility and to say even the things you went through were not as they seem. And of course, being a January 6th had nothing directly to do with like the Jewish question. But it did have to do with the fact that the election was stolen by this cabal for whatever reason. And the same reason I was against it then, it's the same reason I was against Trump getting elected this time. He was clearly the regime's pick in 24, just like Biden was the regime's pick in 2020 and Clinton was the regime's pick in 2016. But oh, wait, there's more. It gets better. It gets better. And this is the last section, if you will, of the show. Like I said, we started with how we got here. We went through the evidence. Now let's bring it home and talk about the attack. It's not a real attack. It's a bad faith attack. Do any of these people believe this? No. They will choose any attack that suits. But you tend to see these types of attacks that hurt your credibility with your own people, whatever. What is the common denominator that ties all these people together? Well, if you recall, I was at the pinnacle of my popularity in June of this year. Why? Because I was the only one that said Trump would bring us to war in Iran. Don't vote for him. Trump is a Trojan horse for the Zionists and for J.D. Vance. It's because of this my show blew up, and I was hitting this hard, talking about Trump's connections to Israel, Vance's connections to Israel, and I said, we can't support them. This is the next big thing. It's in this context that Candace does her hit piece. The day after my biggest show, she does a hit piece. Then she goes on Tucker. Tucker and Candace are gossiping. Tucker says, I'm hurting the reputation of Vance, a real America First guy. Then Candace has on Milo. What does Milo say about Vance? Milo says there's nothing wrong with being a creation of Peter Thiel. A week after that, Elon Musk is replying to Milo on Twitter, calling me a Fed. Well, just who is JD Vance? As we talked about a couple of weeks ago in my explosive show, when Tucker and Candace tried to cancel me, I inadvertently blew up the spot of Vance. Tucker said that Vance is the legitimate America First guy, not Nick Fuentes. I said, well, who's Vance? Vance was mentored by David Frum. David Frum is a Jewish neocon who wrote for the Weekly Standard with Tucker Carlson. David Frum was a speechwriter for George W. Bush. He coined the term axis of evil, which includes Iran, Iraq, and North Korea. David Frum said about Vance that he will one day lead the Republican Party because of the power of his story. Vance went to Yale Law School, where he met Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel became his mentor. Peter Thiel is a CIA contractor. He developed PayPal under the supervision of the Israeli-born engineer that ran the cryptography department at Stanford University, which is a big spook school. Thiel creates PayPal with David Sacks and Elon Musk in the year 2000. Okay? In 2001, Peter Thiel starts up Palantir, which is the surveillance state. Their only contract is with the CIA. Of course, the CIA is what Tucker Carlson's dad was involved in. And he worked with David Frum, Vance's other mentor, at the Weekly Standard under Bill Kristol. Peter Thiel, who's a CIA contractor, uses his fortune to bankroll J.D. Vance's career. J.D. Vance meets Thiel at Stanford, and Vance says that's the most important moment of my life. Thiel gets him his first job in Silicon Valley. Then Thiel hires Vance at his venture capital firm, where Vance writes his book, his story that connects him with the voters. Then Vance starts his own venture capital firm with money from Thiel, and he advises Rebecca Mercer. Rebecca Mercer hired Candace Owens' husband, George Farmer, to run Palantir. Rebecca Mercer founded 1789 Capital under the Rockbridge Network, which is J.D. Vance's slush fund, which gave $15 million to Tucker Carlson. In 2022, Peter Thiel gave J.D. Vance $15 million in his campaign. David Sacks gave J.D. Vance $1 million.
He is so smart and intelligent, and he's only, 26 years old? It blows my mind. He knows all of everything.
In 22, Elon Musk and David Sacks co-hosted a space with the launch of Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign. That didn't work out. In June of 2024, J.D. Vance hosts a fundraiser at David Sacks' house in Silicon Valley. David Sacks was in the PayPal mafia with Elon Musk in the year 2000, and they're close friends. Here's what happened at that fundraiser. It says, quote, last month, J.D. Vance flew to San Francisco to hold a fundraiser for Donald Trump and to host a private dinner afterward with 24 tech and crypto executives and investors. During the $300,000 a person dinner that night, Mr. Trump, seated next to David Sacks, polled the room about who to choose as his running mate. Mr. Sacks and everyone else in attendance had the same answer. Pick Vance, they told Mr. Trump. Mr. Vance, the Ohio senator selected by Mr. Trump to be his running mate, spent less than 5 years in Silicon Valley's tech industry, where he worked as a junior venture capitalist and biotech executive. Mr. Vance's stint in tech was crucial for forging connections with billionaire executives and investors, including Peter Thiel, David Sacks, and Elon Musk.
So the system picked Vance. Wow.
Over and over, those men have funded Mr. Vance's political ambitions, raised his profile among wealthy donors, and lobbied Mr. Trump to choose him as his running mate. Before the midterm elections, Mr. Thiel gave $15 million for Vance's campaign for the Senate. Sacks donated $1 million to his PAC. Mr. Trump cited Vance's successful business career in tech and finance as a reason he was chosen. Mr. Thiel placed calls to encourage Mr. Trump to choose Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance was a friend of the Teal Network going back years, said Crystal McKellar. It seemed Peter saw something special in him. Mr. Musk also encouraged Mr. Trump to choose Mr. Vance in private communications recently. On Monday, Mr. Musk called Mr. Vance's selection an excellent decision. Vance has relied on Sachs, whom he called one of his closest confidants. After that event, Vance introduced Sachs to Don Jr. You know who else lobbied Trump to choose Vance as his running mate, in addition to Peter Thiel and Elon Musk? Tucker Carlson. This is from the New York Times. When word got back to Tucker Carlson a few weeks ago that President Trump might be wavering on J.D. Vance as his running mate, Mr. Carlson intervened. Mr. Carlson, who was visiting Australia on a speaking tour, phoned Mr. Trump and delivered an apocalyptic warning. Their conversation, according to two people briefed on the discussion, was included in an article in the New York Times exploring the years-long process of how Mr. Vance won over Mr. Trump. In their phone conversation in June, Mr. Carlson told Mr. Trump that another top running...
Yeah, I'm definitely going to listen to him tomorrow while I'm at work. I love listening to Nick's lives from the previous night.
...made contender Marco Rubio could
Probably
not be trusted, that he would work against him and try to lead America into nuclear war. Mr. Carlson, who declined to comment, told Mr. Trump that the other top contender, Doug Burgum, could not be trusted either. Get a load of this. Tucker told Mr. Trump he believed that if Trump chose a neocon as his VP, then the U.S. intelligence agencies would have every incentive to assassinate Mr. Trump in order to get their preferred president.
Wow. Wow.
Tucker made a last-ditch overture to President Trump. Pick Vance. Pick Vance. You have to pick Vance, or else the intelligence agencies will kill you if you don't. Peter Thiel, the FBI informant and CIA contractor, Elon Musk, the defense contractor and PayPal mafia member with Peter Thiel, close confidant of David Sachs, and J.D. Vance, who brokered the David Sachs fundraiser with Silicon Valley and Trump, mentored by Peter Thiel, mentored by David Frum, who worked for Bill Kristol with Tucker Carlson. Thiel, Musk, and Tucker lobbied Trump to pick Vance, and they said, if you don't, the CIA will kill you. Who's the CIA? Who does the CIA, NSA, FBI, DHS, who do they all contract with? Palantir, founded by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp and Joe Lonsdale, Israel First Jews that after October 7th flew their board to Israel and provided them with facial recognition technology to murder Palestinians. J.D. Vance, who upon becoming the VP nominee in his first interview said, we're going to bomb Iran, who went to the Quincy Institute and said, we need a pro-Israel spin on America first. Tucker, who interviewed Vance 46 times on his show, Vance hired his son. Vance's Rockbridge Network was the spawning point of 1789 Capital, founded by Rebecca Mercer and Claire Monster Chris Buskirk, which gave Tucker $15 million. Rebecca Mercer funded Steve Bannon at Breitbart that spawned Milo Yiannopoulos' career. And Rebecca Mercer hand-selected George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband, to run Parler in 2021.
This is crazy. I didn't even know he ran Parler. I didn't know that was him.
This is why they want me dead. Who's the Fed? Who's the Fed here? Because I brought all the receipts. Last Friday, the Friday before that, tonight, Google it. Google it. It's all there. You want openness? You want transparency? There it is. There it is. Watch this clip. This is from Candace's show last week with Milo. Oh, it gets better. You think I'm done? Do you think I'm done? Watch this clip. Let me put my headphones on and you can see for yourself. Where will the fence sitters land after this? Let's see. Let's see where they land. Or if they join in on the takedown. How about this? How about another joke, Candace? Hang on. Where's my audio?
Now, obviously, I think those chances have been completely annihilated given what's happened. But what do you think about J.D. Vance? I find his silence to be quite loud.
I have a feeling he's going to really pleasantly surprise us all, because I think the expectations for him were so low. He's a creation of Peter. People always like suspicious about, he's a creation of Peter Thiel, without really explaining what it is about that that's bad.
Wait, hang on. Wait a second. Didn't you just say that I'm an FBI asset? I'm an FBI informant? Get shit on? Eat shit and die? Wait a second. Let's get an instant replay here.
Now, obviously, I think those chances have been completely annihilated given what's happened.
Because it felt good the first time. Let's do it another time.
I find his silence to be quite loud.
I have a feeling he's going to really pleasantly surprise us all, because I think the expectations for him were so low. He's a creation of Peter. People always like suspicious about, he's a creation of Peter Thiel, without really explaining what it is about that that's bad.
Well, what's bad about Peter Thiel? He's an FBI informant. That's for starters. Among many, 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 many other things. How about this? How about another explanation? How about another joke, Murray? How about this? This a good reason? Palantir tech giant struggles to answer question about Israel's use of AI-generated kills. I defer to Israel. How about this? How about this? How about that? How about this?
Antichrist, yes. He is the one that's in control of AI, I believe, right now. I don't trust anyone involved with AI.
How about this? You think we forgot about this one? How about the greatest hits? How about the greatest hits of all fucking time?
He ain't lying.
What do you think of this one? This is from 2017. I reached Posobiec by phone on Saturday. The previous day, he told me he had flown from Washington to Miami to attend a party hosted by the far-right self-promoter Milo Yiannopoulos. Posobiec spent much of Friday morning monitoring 4chan poll. People were claiming something big was coming, so I just keep hitting refresh, he told me. Shortly before 3 p.m., an anonymous user posted 9 gigabytes of information, hacked emails, photographs, and documents from the campaign of Emmanuel Macron. Posobiec could not know whether all the information was authentic. He considered it his journalistic duty to tell his followers about the leak, which he was tipped off about. Oh, but it gets better. It gets so much better. Because guess who's at this party? This was retweeted hundreds of times. The tweet seems to stagnate. Posobiec is an anti-globalist. He sent out a few more tweets, hashtag Macron leaks, then went to the rented mansion party where the Cinco de Milo party was being held. Yiannopoulos was made his grand entrance, descending a curving staircase with a large yellow snake around his neck. I think they left something else out.
That's so like elite type entrance. You just think you're the shit with the snake around your neck. I just don't get the point in that. These people are such narcissists.
If we can find it. There was something else that he had there. He was also draped in an Israeli flag. Do you know that about the party? Here he is with all these black men, a boa. And at some point, he put on an Israeli flag at this party where they're attacking Macron. This was 8 years ago. Now, here's the coup de grace. This is going to bring it home once and for all. This is from yesterday. Heartbroken Vance pleads for Musk and Trump to just get back together already. Divorce is always hardest on the kids, but J.D. Vance still seems to think there's scope for Elon Musk and Donald Trump to pick up the pieces after their messy split. I really think it's a mistake for him to try to break from the president, Vance told the Gateway Pundit. My hope is that by the time of the midterms, he's going to come back into the fold. It really makes you think. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Candace Owens does a hit piece on me. It backfires. She does a thing with Tucker Carlson where Tucker says, oh, J.D. Vance is a real patriot. It backfires.
Backfired big
Candace
time.
brings on Milo, who defends J.D. Vance. A week later, Elon Musk is replying to Milo, saying, I'm a Fed. This is a day after J.D. Vance is lobbying Trump to bring Elon back into the White House before the midterms. Do you see what's going on here? Now, here's my challenge. So this is all the receipts. This is all the information.
By the way, they're talking about Jack Posobiec, right? Who's always on with Steve Bannon on the War Room. Charlie Kirk's right-hand man. I used to love Charlie Kirk until I found out he's totally Israel first.
Up in a minute. Let's make things a little interesting, shall we? Let's make things a little bit interesting on the show. You know, I don't know what Candace Owens' deal is. Her husband, George Farmer, is connected to Rebecca Mercer and Brexit and Nigel Farage, and by proxy, Bannon and all of this stuff. I don't know what her deal is. But she expressed skepticism over J.D. Vance. Candace, if you are interested in the truth and journalism, you need to do a show on J.D. Vance. You need to investigate his connections to David Frum,
That's good.
to Peter Thiel, to David Sachs, to Elon Musk. You need to dig into the PayPal mafia, the antecedents of PayPal, which originated at Stanford, Max Levchin, and Bona, who ran the cryptography department at Stanford. You need to do the deep dive on this. And when you do it, if you do it, you will come to the conclusion that Vance must be opposed in 2028 by any means necessary. Do it and see what happens.
Damn.
Candace Owens should go against J.D. Vance hard and see if she still gets the same treatment from Tucker Carlson and Milo. I'd be very interested to see what happens to her. Will she go after Vance in a thorough way?
No.
And if she does, what's going to happen to those connections? Because I have a feeling there's something going on here with all of that. I have been the #1 Vance hater from the beginning. And why? Because he is being groomed to usurp America First and MAGA on behalf of the deep state in Israel, as I demonstrated last Friday and the week before that. Peter Thiel is a spook. He started the Stanford Review with money from Irving Kristol. He goes to, and Stanford is a spook school. He creates PayPal through the cryptography department under the supervision of an Israeli-born Jew and partnered up with Max Levchin, another Jew. PayPal Mafia is Elon Musk and David Sachs. He takes his money and banks it with Alex Karp and Joe Lansdale, 2 Israel First Jews, running a CIA program. For 7 years, the CIA is their only client. They visit Langley over 300 times. In the same, concurrently, Tucker Carlson's at the Weekly Standard with Bill Kristol, Irving Kristol's son. Later on, J.D. Vance is groomed by Peter Thiel at Yale Law School. He's hired in Silicon Valley by Peter Thiel. He advises these other people like Rebecca Mercer. He gets involved in the Thiel universe. During this time, Tucker Carlson is supporting JD Vance when he runs for Senate, has him on his show dozens and dozens of times. Tucker Carlson is backing Vance after Vance voted for Bill Kristol's handpicked candidate, Evan McMullin, a CIA agent. We already know Tucker's connections to the CIA. Who lobbies Trump to pick Vance? Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel. Vance becomes the vice president.
Crazy.
As vice president,
yeah, because if we remember, even the MAGA base didn't even really, I feel like, well, me especially, didn't even know who Vance was. Like, I wanted Vivek Ramaswamy, Matt Gaetz. Definitely wasn't thinking about him at the time.
Vance is advocating on behalf of Palantir, Doge, Israel. And what's the basis of Tucker's attack on me now? You're discrediting the good guys like JD Vance. Milo goes on Candace. JD Vance is a good guy. Elon replies to Milo, you're right, Nick Fuentes attacking Vance is a Fed, as Tucker Carlson said. Tucker said to Trump, if you don't pick Vance, the deep state will kill you. Think of it. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Tucker Carlson are telling Trump, the deep state will kill you if you don't pick Vance. Who the fuck is the deep state? If it isn't Elon Musk, the creator of Starshield, if it isn't Peter Thiel, the creator of Palantir, if it isn't Tucker Carlson, whose dad ran Voice of America and the U.S. Information Agency.
Damn, man.
That sounds like a failed threat. That's what that sounds like to me. And the reason they're trying to shut me up is because, one, I'm talking about Israel and Jewishness as such, and because I'm not on board with Trump and Vance. That is why they're attacking me. That's the difference between me and them. What's the difference between Tucker, Elon, and me? They support Vance and I don't. What's the difference between Tucker, Candace, everybody on Tucker's show? They say it's neocons, it's Zionists. I'm saying no, it has something to do with Judaism. They're all involved in this network of oligarchs and billionaires. I'm the realest nigga on the internet that's in the middle of my generational run. And it is not going to come to an end anytime soon over my...
Yes, William, right on target. I've been seeing Laura Loomer and all these people, even Mark Levin, neocon warmonger, cannot stand that dumbass. All are turning on Gates because he criticized how he attacked Iran, which the MAGA base didn't agree with. Marjorie Taylor Greene calling out how we shouldn't fund Israel anymore. Yep. And it's so easy these days to see how they're going to be treated if they criticize Israel.
Dead body. Because a bunch of fucking autistic spurgs that weren't even born here are going to try and lie on my name. Elon Musk, you weren't born here. Milo, you're a Jew and you weren't born here. Candace Owens, your husband wasn't born here. Go the fuck home. This is America first. I was born in America. This is the only country I've ever known, and I will die for America. Can you say the same? I am America first. You are not. You're not even American. And to the extent that you are, you're a fucking traitor.
Yep.
That's the last word on that. That's the show. Who is the Fed? Will the real federal agent please stand up? Who is it? Who's the real federal agent? Elon, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, Tucker, and George Farmer, the son of the head of the Alliance of Christians and Jews in the UK? Or the realest fucking nigga you know? Patrick Bet-David.
I love that you said that.
Said, why do you say the N-word? It's to show people I'm real.
PBD, who I used to listen to, what a effing disappointment he's become recently. Ugh.
Why do you roll out of bed at 3 a.m. and do a show? Why do you say you're going to have hate sex with Candace Owens? Why do you say nigger? It's to show you I'm the real nigga on the show. All these people that have been taking checks from Fox News.
I see a lot of black conservatives who I like for instance, the Cartier Family reaction channel on YouTube saying that they are giving Nick the N-word pass and that he's more black than Candace Owens. It's so funny.
Turning Point USA, Dennis Prager, they're just not ready for this. They're not ready that we're in the Groyper generation. Because all this time, these past 8 years, what do you think I've been doing? Your attacks, your slander, your persecution, I have only been growing stronger. Don't you get it? I have only been gathering strength. 8 years. Lied about, censored, attacked, persecuted. Well, you were at parties getting millions of dollars for doing bullshit. Your show is ass, and you're full of shit, and you're retarded. And that is why I'm not just coming for Rumble.
He's talking his shit
I'm not
right
just
now.
coming for Twitter. I'm coming for all of it. I'm coming for all of it.
He's going hard on him right now.
You thought you'd bring me on the show and press me about Dave Smith? You don't know who the fuck you're dealing with. You let in a fucking dragon, bitch. Imagine shooting a man with this last bullet, which actually happened to me. They came to my house. They tried to kill me. I'm still here. I'm still at this house. You know where to find me. Bitch!
Look at smile as he's saying that.
You tried shooting with your last bullet, and I stand there, unfazed. So bring it on. Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk. I'm coming for all of it. I'm going to fuck up your apple cart, and all the king's men are not going to be able to put it back together again. You might kill me in the process, but you're fucking done.
Yep, exposed. Expose them all.
Signed, America.
Damn right.
That's my body. And that's me. And that's my body. So that's that. That's all we got for you tonight.
Damn. That was hard. That was hard. He exposed a bunch of people while putting them on check, putting them on, pretty much telling them he's coming for all of you guys. You're all getting exposed. And I really hope he does a big deep dive into Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk's been running his mouth too long. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Long show, but very informative. And I love these type of shows. I don't pause it as much. We just listen to Nick do his thing and cook. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great night. America first always. Peace.